Welcome to Scarlet Tavern. Grab a drink, take a seat, and let's begin. Tonight, we're diving into the mist-shrouded forests, the darkened alleys, and the deepest corners of your imagination as we tackle the mysterious world of cryptids and tulpas. Is that shadowy figure lurking in the woods just a trick of the light, or the legendary Mothman keeping an eye on you? And what if you could create your very own creature, just by thinking about it long enough? Buckle up, fellow explorers of the unknown, because things are about to get weird. Really weird. This is Scarlet Tavern. All right.
That's good stuff right there.
All right. So,
better than your watered down stuff, honey.
Okay.
Peanut butter whiskey is delicious.
It is an abomination.
Whoever likes peanut butter whiskey, please like and comment on our thing.
Okay, so
let us know.
we will have no response to this.
To those of you who have good taste and enjoy a good Irish whiskey, like I am enjoying today, please respond in our comment section on our Facebook page.
I'm just drinking mead.
Yeah.
Of course you are.
But it's the good mead.
It is
like
good
my
mead.
ancestors before me.
Okay. I don't know if that was a Viking reference or some weird Star Wars reference.
All right. I'd be drinking Boganoga.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Did the Jedi drink? We need the answers.
Yeah. All right.
Probably not. No.
Tulpas and cryptids. So we're into October, so the Halloween spooky kind of stuff. So we're doing tulpas and cryptids here, and then we're gonna do a little more of a free form on our next episode, where we're just going to go through like haunted Reddit threads, and see if we believe they're real or not and whatever. So that'll be a little more free form. And then we get into the last of the season with our 4-parter on the Zodiac Killer.
Kate's favorite serial killer. Which is kind of
favorite.
odd,
Why is it odd?
I don't know.
Everybody has a favorite serial killer.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I'll be helping.
Fine, Jack the Ripper's mines. All
we'll
right.
be. Mine's not classified as a serial killer, even though there's no proof that he wasn't.
You talking about Garth Brooks?
What the fuck?
That's sexual molestation.
Oh, no. I heard a weird thing today that apparently someone tried to say Garth Brooks is actually a secret serial killer.
No. Ed Gein.
Oh, yeah. The guy.
Her hometown hero.
Yeah.
Not my hometown hero. Absolutely fucking not.
But still
And
from
also-
your hometown.
And also Ted Bundy.
Okay. So, in Tibetan Buddhism and later mystical traditions, a tulpa is a thought form or materialized being, usually taking human shape, created through spiritual practice, meditation, and intense concentration. Originating from Buddhist teachings, a tulpa is said to be a manifestation of one's thoughts, brought into existence through focused mental effort. Over time, this concept extended beyond spiritual context and into the realms of Western occultism and theosophy, where it became a key belief in the power of the mind to project independent entities. Now, the concept of tulpas, again, has its origins in the Buddhist notion of Nirmanakaya.
Wow, I could never pronounce that.
I believe I said that right.
I tried.
I forgot to translate.
A term that refers to the physical manifestations or emanation bodies of a Buddha created to teach and guide those who have yet to reach enlightenment. In Tibetan, this idea is translated as sprulpa, describing the ability of enlightened beings to take on earthly forms to aid others in their spiritual journey. In this context, the Nirmanakaya is not a thought form in the modern sense, but rather a tool of compassion used by Buddhas for teaching and guiding those still bound by samsara.
I tried to think of it, look up as much as it is, but unfortunately, I just kind of had to cut it off because otherwise this would have been a podcast about Buddhism.
Yeah. So samsara, just so everybody knows, it's found in Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. It is the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth that all living beings undergo.
And the Nirmanakaya
Yeah.
Sorry if we are pronouncing these words completely incorrectly. It is a Sanskrit word that refers to the physical manifestation of a Buddha in the world.
Yeah. So, the concept of tulpas, as understood in the West, diverged from its Buddhist roots, particularly in the early 20th century, when European mystical explorers and occultists began to reinterpret it. These explorers, many influenced by theosophy and other esoteric traditions, adopted the idea of tulpas, but stripped it of its original connection to Buddhahood. Instead, they emphasized the power of the mind to create independent, sentient entities through focused thought and intention, a departure from the Buddhist understanding that was more aligned with the mystical and psychological ideas of the time. Basically, what they were doing is, I mean, how we see it now, it's just thinking of it, and it's not necessarily something that's there to help you. It's just willing this creature into existence.
Yeah, I mean, tulpas are just there to they're just the manifestation of your journey to enlightenment. This is like, if I concentrate hard enough, a bear will approach. It's typical early to late 19th century crackpot philosophers just finding something that sounds kind of cool and just being like,
Yeah.
kind of twisting it to their beliefs.
So, in the early 20th century, theosophists who were deeply influenced by Eastern philosophies adapted the Vajrayana Buddhists' concept of the Nirmanakaya, or emanation body, into the Western concepts of tulpa and thought form. These thought forms are considered to be mental projections or manifestations created through the power of concentrated thought. In their 1905 book, Thought Forms, Theosophists Annie Besant and C.W. Ledbetter outline three distinct types of thought forms. One, forms that resemble the creator. These thought forms take the shape of the person who created them. Two, forms resembling objects or other people. These may be ensouled by nature, spirits, or the dead, giving them a life of their own. And three, forms representing abstract qualities. These arise from the astral and mental planes and are connected to emotions or inherent qualities such as love, anger, or fear. Theosophy also connected these thought forms with esoteric spiritual practices. For example, Walter Evans Wentz, his 1927 translation of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, references thought forms as part of Tibetan Buddhist cosmology. This concept later found use in Western magical practices, where creating or controlling thought forms became a mystical tool. One famous contemporary example of the tulpa concept is the Slender Man, a fictional figure created online that some described as a tulpa effect. Its creation and spread through collective imagination have been cited as modern example of how multiple people's thoughts can manifest a shared thought form. And now, for those that don't know, the Slender Man was created in 2009 on the Something Awful forum as part of a contest to create paranormal images.
Yeah, they succeeded.
He is a
2009?
Yeah. He is a tall, faceless figure in a suit known to abduct children and cause madness. And it gained so much attention and belief that people were reporting sightings, and it actually even inspired a real-life crime.
Uh-huh. In Wisconsin.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
As we stare accusingly judging Pam for all the crimes that happened in Wisconsin.
Hey, not my fault. It wasn't in my part of Wisconsin.
It's your
with all
people.
Yeah.
No.
Wait, no.
If I remember right, where this was, it was in Milwaukee and Racine.
Sorry, we got that wrong. This didn't happen in
Minnesota.
Fuck you both. But that, if I remember right, that case happened in, fuck you, in Racine or Milwaukee area. It wasn't central Wisconsin where I'm from.
Yeah. I'm so glad I hated Slender Man. And I'm a horror aficionado. I love horror, everything. It's just, I felt it just got widely blown out of proportion. I'm glad that nobody ever seen a tulpa never seen a form of this, though. Hopefully not, at least.
Yeah, I think it was. Now I need to double check where this was.
I mean, I guess the Slender Man wasn't such a bad concept. It's definitely creepy looking. I just thought it was just one of those pop culture internet phenomenons that just got too much attention.
So the case that you're talking about is about two 12-year-old girls who stabbed their friend in Waukesha, Wisconsin in 2014 to please the fictional character Slender Man.
Isn't Waukesha near where you live?
No.
I don't know.
Waukesha is down south.
All those towns sound weird and all
No,
the
the
same to me.
fuck they don't.
So in The Human Aura in 1911, occultist William Walker Atkinson described thought forms as ethereal objects generated by the aura of a person's thoughts and emotions. He elaborated on this concept in Clairvoyance and Occult Powers, where he suggested that practitioners could create thought forms as astral projections. These projections could take various shapes, either resembling the creator or appearing as illusions visible only to those with awakened astral senses. This concept mirrored the idea of astral travel or psychic influence through mental projection.
And it was the Milwaukee. It was a suburb of Milwaukee.
Alexander David Neal, a spiritualist and explorer who traveled extensively in Tibet in the early 20th century, observed tulpa creation practices firsthand. She described tulpas as magic formations generated by a powerful connection of thought. According to David Neal, once a tulpa gains enough vitality, it can take on a life of its own, developing independent thought and potentially breaking free of its creator's control. She likened this phenomenon to a child growing in its mother's womb and eventually becoming an autonomous being. David Neal recounted her own experience of creating a tulpa in the form of a jolly monk resembling Friar Tuck. Over time, the tulpa began to develop its own personality and eventually had to be destroyed. Though David Neal raised the possibility that her experience may have been an hallucination,
You think?
she maintained that others had also seen the thought form she created.
I feel like everybody just had a badass trip and just all shared it.
Tulpas entered modern paranormal lore after journalist and UFO enthusiast John Keel discussed them in his 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies.
Which we covered in one of our previous episodes.
We did.
The Mothman.
In the book, Keel recounted how novelist Walter Gibson's house was allegedly haunted by a figure resembling the Shadow, a character created by Gibson. Keel explained this phenomenon by referencing Tibetan beliefs, claiming that advanced human minds could manipulate invisible energies to create visible forms called tulpas, or thought projections. He further speculated that many reports of ghosts or aliens resembling popular culture depictions might actually be tulpas, manifested by the collective thoughts and imaginations of people. And one of my favorite depictions is what we're about to talk about is Supernatural. So
Love it.
the concept of tulpas soon found its way into pop culture. For an example, an episode of the show Supernatural features a storyline where spirit haunting a house turned out to be a tulpa created by teenagers sharing haunted house stories online. One character explains, that's Sam, explains the power of tulpas by referencing the ability of Tibetan monks to create beings through meditation. He adds a modern twist saying, that was 20 monks. Imagine what 10,000 web surfers can do. This highlights how the idea of tulpas has evolved in modern times, suggesting that the collective belief and imagination amplified by the internet could potentially bring thought forms to life.
Well, let's just hope nobody actually creates like an actual Slender Man or Bigfoot. Actually, you know what? You would maybe that's how Bigfoot's created. They're actually tulpas, and they all gained sentient, and now they're just roaming around the wilderness of Canada and Alaska.
Yeah. So, in the late
I
19...
don't believe in Bigfoot.
Bigfoot exists.
Bigfoot's real.
Yes.
In the late 1900s and early 2000s, influenced by depictions of tulpas in television and film, the term tulpa began to evolve into a modern concept referring to a willed imaginary friend. These tulpas are believed by practitioners to be sentient, autonomous entities that coexist with their creator, known as a host. Communities of these practitioners who call themselves tulpamancers began to emerge online, particularly on platforms like 4chan and Reddit.
Of course.
4chan.
Is that still a thing?
No.
What is 4chan?
4chan got shut down. It's kind of like Reddit, but worse.
Very horrible.
People were killing themselves over stuff that happened on 4chan.
Oh, shit.
It was bad. Like Reddit limits stuff that can be allowed on there for the most part. 4chan did not.
People were getting caught with like kitty porn.
Yeah.
On
Oh,
4chan.
shit.
4chan was bad. I believe it's shut down now.
Hopefully.
These communities gained increased attention when adult fans of My Little Pony, which is a problem in and of itself, began discussing the creation of tulpas modeled after characters from the television series. Through techniques such as meditation and lucid dreaming, these fans aim to manifest these characters as sentient companions.
I swear to God, a bunch of bronies just fucking tried to do this and make Little Ponies. Oh,
Yeah.
God, these people are weird.
So
Bronies are, for anybody who doesn't know, because if
so
I have to...
sit on their fucking horn.
Yeah, if I have to know what they are, you all have to know what they are. They're just basically weird dudes who are, like, obsessed with My Little Pony.
Yeah. Surveys by anthropologist Samuel Vissier examine the social and psychological aspects of these communities. Most practitioners perceive their tulpas as real or somewhat real people, and their practices are closely tied to managing feelings of loneliness and social anxiety.
You think?
The demographic of tulpamancers is primarily urban, middle-class Euro-American adolescents and young adults, with a number of active participants in the low hundreds. Few in-person gatherings of tulpamancers have occurred, as most of the community interaction remains online, because they have no social interaction skills.
I would not want to have
They're
these
in
guys-
their mother's basement,
Seriously.
imagining My Little Ponies coming to life and fucking them in the ass.
Yeah.
A significant majority of practitioners, 93.7%, reported that creating tulpas improved their emotional well-being and mental health. They also experience unusual sensory phenomena, including vivid hallucinations where they could see, hear, and even physically interact with their tulpas. Although controversial, some practitioners reported having romantic and sexual interactions with their tulpas, practice that has become somewhat taboo within the community. Like I said, honestly, no offense to anybody that's like this, but I think this is where furries come from.
Probably.
I'm sorry if you're a furry, but it's just not my thing.
We
No.
don't have this on camera because
Listen, I never want to... Okay. Mental illness is not something we make fun of. But this is in that gray area of like, dude, chick, whatever, you're crazy, get help, go socialize with real human beings.
Stop fucking a unicorn.
Seriously.
God, that's how you rip yourself open.
How does it?
oh my god!
Why did you? You know what? I blame you for this episode. You wanted the tulpas. I delivered, and I hate myself for doing it because I had to find out that this is an actual thing.
Yes, I knew it was. That's why I wanted to do it.
So did I.
So, in terms of belief systems, a survey found that only 8.5% of tulpamancers support a metaphysical explanation for tulpas, while the majority, 76.5%, believe in a neurological or psychological explanation. A small portion of respondents, 14%, supported other forms of explanation.
So they know they're crazy, they just don't want to actually believe they're crazy.
Viasser's research also found that tulpamancers exhibited higher rates of neurodivergence, including conditions such as autism, ADD, and ADHD, compared to the general population. He speculated that these individuals may be more inclined to create tulpas due to increased feelings of loneliness and social isolation. The majority of tulpamancers were found to be white, imaginative, articulate, and living in urban settings. A 2022 study further supported this, finding that individuals without psychosis who engaged in multiple unusual sensory experiences, such as ASMR and tulpamancy, were more prone to hallucinations compared to those who only experienced one such phenomenon.
We're not all pointing at each other right now.
Pointing at them.
I'm not lonely. I have you, honey.
Listen,
Unless you're a tulpa.
white, who are you talking to?
What?
There's nobody there.
Well, that's bad. That's really bad. That
Wow.
you know what's worse? That
Wow.
I've been imagining that I've had a beautiful wife of 12 years, or the fact that I've
not
been
quite 12 years yet.
whatever. I just count the dating as part of that. Or the fact that I've apparently been obviously having a delusion. You've just been reinforcing it. So who's worse in this
And
situation?
plus, ADHD. Babe.
But
Sorry,
white, imaginative, articulate. Well, never mind.
Yeah.
Articulate. Never mind. You're not articulate.
Okay, just to get on my little soapbox to defend ADHD. 99.9% of us are actually fairly normal and functioning. We're not a bunch of bronies. that
Ben
are
is
so
not
crazy.
part of that 99%.
I am 100% a part of that 99%.
Fuck you not.
Yeah, we're not. All ADHD people are not a bunch of bronies trying to fuck unicorns. Why am I saying these things? I hate you for this.
All right, the Tulpamancer subculture has also been linked to the practice of reality shifting, or RS, technique that involves deliberately inducing a self-hypnotic state to escape from one's current reality into a desired fantasy world or wonderland inhabited by chosen characters. Oh, I don't hate that. Let me go, dude. You could go escape to the Shire.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Except with your luck, you'd fall in Mount Doom.
Yeah, I would.
Because there's also another, it's a therapy technique that I went through. It's called EMDR. It also has you do something similar, but not quite this in depth.
There's a difference between doing like a therapeutic technique with a licensed therapist that's helping you control it so you don't go off
popping
the deep
mushrooms and just
Going to
fucking a unicorn.
Exactly.
He's gonna be dreaming about fucking a unicorn.
Maybe you should keep on mentioning it.
You just hear him sleeping.
If I hear that, I swear.
Record
it.
No.
Record it.
No evidence.
We will post it on our socials.
No, you will not.
I'll send it to Kayde and then I can't help it.
Okay, just give more blackmail information.
As noted by Somer et al. 2021, both tulpamancy and reality shifting are often used as coping mechanisms to address loneliness and psychological suffering, offering individuals a form of escapism and a way to manage difficult emotions through interaction with their imagined worlds. Listen, you can be a tulpamancer if you want to, but if you needed a way to address loneliness and psychological suffering and you need a form of escape,
video games,
D&D.
Yeah.
Guess what it does? It takes you into a fantasy world where you get to play another character. Hey, guess what you can do? You can play a unicorn. Don't fuck yourself.
Or
just
play murder hobos.
And what I was going to say was a little more serious. In all seriousness, I think one thing to understand about this is that a lot of the tulpamancers or whatever, there does seem to be a lot of them does seem to have some social anxiety and need some mental help. Seek it out, get some help, find some friends to do that. Don't just manifest your thoughts to help cope with it. That's not really coping. You're just kind of digging yourselves into your delusion, which is not healthy.
Another thing is, if you want to do that, write it down.
Yeah.
And write a fantasy novel.
Well, not everybody can be a writer. Submit it and see if you're good enough to be a writer. But
or there's AO3, fanfiction.net, LiveJournal, Tumblr. Yes, I am the fanfiction reader in the group. I love reading fanfiction, so.
Yes.
So, and here's the thing, like these, we're talking about neurodivergence, and we're all sitting here, we're all neurodivergent, and
some more than others.
Yeah.
So if you look at the statistics, those that are neurodivergent, they are a lot higher statistically of experiencing suicidal ideations. So actually 25.2% of autistic youths experience suicidal ideation. 8.3% have attempted suicide, but luckily only 0.2% have died by suicide. Although that is obviously way too much.
Mm-hmm. But
so we're gonna joke about all of this stuff, but seriously, if you need help, go get it.
Yes.
There are plenty of people out there, and again, find an escape. Our escape is D&D and doing these podcasts, and drinking.
Find.
I was about to say, like, as I stared lovingly into my glass of Irish whiskey,
just don't become an alcoholic, please.
Please don't.
Find
Please, for the love of God,
a
don't
role
do that.
playing game like World of Warcraft.
Avatar: The Last Airbender is actually coming out with a role playing game, with an RPG video game.
Please don't find a fantasy role playing game that has you having intercourse with ponies. Don't do that.
But you can with a centaur because that's okay, because they are part human.
I'm not even going to argue with it. I just hate the fact that now I have people fucking ponies as an actual thing.
Just think about this. Picture a female centaur.
I don't want to.
Where do you put it in? The back of the horse or the front?
I don't want to know.
I mean, would there be a front? Because
think about it as we move on.
Because I'm trying to think of like the centaurs of like Harry Potter.
How about we just not do it? How about we just not do it? Don't do that.
Yeah. He knows my brain more than you.
So your brain more than you. I've been married to you for 11 years. You don't think
I know but he knows that I can't not think about it.
I know that too. That's why I'm trying to find something else.
Okay, so here are some well-known examples of tulpas. The Shadow, created by novelist Walter Gibson in 1930. The Shadow is a fictional vigilante with a mysterious and dark persona. He was reportedly seen as a tulpa by Gibson in his own home. Journalist John Keel mentioned this in his book, The Mothman Prophecies, claiming that the character seemed to materialize, manifesting as a ghostly figure resembling the Shadow. This idea reinforced the concept that tulpas could be created through imagination and focused thought. We already went over the Slender Man, so I won't do that again. We have the Philip experiment. This was in 1972, a parapsychological experiment conducted in Canada.
Fucking Canadian.
Toronto. To be more... Yeah.
Of course it would be Toronto.
Yeah.
Those freaking idiots up there. To our Canadian listeners, you all know what I'm talking about. Any people from Toronto, fuck you. And the Maple Leafs.
Researchers set out to create...
team.
Dare you.
Researchers set out to create a fictional ghost named Philip Aylesford through collective imagination. They developed an elaborate backstory for Philip and attempted to communicate with him through seances. Eventually, they reported signs of paranormal activity, including knocks and movement of a table. While Philip was not a traditional tulpa, the experiment was an attempt to manifest a sentient being through collective thought closely resembling the tulpa concept. And there's a lot of information on the Philip experiment. We may delve into that because that's an episode on its own. Because there's a
Wouldn't
lot
that
to
be
it.
more of a poltergeist?
No, because he didn't exist.
Yeah,
he didn't exist.
There was some
name Philip Aylesford. If you look it up, it'll only bring you to the Philip experiment.
Any money, there was a couple of fucking
somebody sitting here.
Fraternity bros at Toronto, whatever university they did it, and they just followed them and started fucking with these guys.
But that's almost an episode on itself, so we may end up doing that next season or at some point.
Yeah.
So Alexander David Neil's monk that we talked about before. David Neil was a French explorer and spiritualist. She reported creating a tulpa in the form of Jolly Monk inspired by Tibetan spiritual practices. Over time, the monk allegedly developed independent thought and behavior, becoming increasingly malevolent. David Neil claimed that she eventually had to dissolve the tulpa as it had become too autonomous. This case is a well-known example of the dangers associated with tulpa creation in traditional spiritual contexts.
I'm still not convinced she just didn't have a bad acid trip and saw some
that
shit.
Or
yeah,
maybe climbed up Mount Everest, because that is in Tibet.
It's on the border of Nepal and Tibet.
I highly doubt she'd climb Everest.
Okay, I was gonna say more like oxygen deprivation.
Yeah, that could be it. I don't know.
So
she's French. She's crazy.
And just a couple more on here. You have the Hat Man. The Hat Man was popularized in online forums and paranormal TV shows. He was a shadow figure, often wearing a wide brim hat, typically observed during sleep paralysis.
Ew.
No, my sleep paralysis one does not look like that.
There is Jeff the Killer. Jeff the Killer is a creepypasta story and image circulating online since 2008.
I do love creepypastas.
He's a disfigured, smiling killer with white skin and black eyes. there is obviously, technically, Mothman is a tulpa, even though he kind of fits into cryptids as well.
Yeah, he
kind of goes between the two.
It's one of those chicken and egg kind of thing. What came first?
Then there's the Rake, which is from Creepypasta. It's a gaunt, pale humanoid creature with an unsettling behavior. It's kind of like Slender Man. And then one of the big ones, probably one of the most recent ones, was Momo.
Momo.
Yeah, so there was the Momo challenge. Basically, Momo began as a disturbing image of a bird-like woman with bulging eyes, elongated features, and an eerie smile. Look it up to show Ben. The image itself is a sculpture created by Japanese artist Kasuke Isawa of the company Link Factory. It was initially displayed at an art exhibit in 2016 and was called Mother Bird. The image went viral after rumors surfaced about...
I've seen that. Oh, that's creepy.
The image went viral after rumors surfaced about the Momo Challenge, where children were reportedly receiving messages on platforms like WhatsApp, instructing them to perform dangerous tasks or self-harm, often ending with a command to commit suicide. These messages were supposedly sent by an entity known as Momo. So there was... Yeah, Momo was a huge thing, and children were killing themselves because of this. They were like, it was popping up on even YouTube Kids, which is very...
Not supposed to be?
Yes, it is very much YouTube, Google, because Google owns YouTube. They do a very good job at YouTube Kids of limiting what's on there.
Yeah, but they didn't with the whole Colleen Ballinger thing.
But yeah, so Momo ended up on there, so a lot of kids killed themselves because of it. So
that's horrible. So now we're getting into some stuff that's a little closer to our home, the cryptids of the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah, which I'm not looking forward to because I like to be completely like, don't know this shit, so I don't have to think about it being this close to Appalachia. Okay, no, don't.
We're also gonna at some point we're gonna take
camp in the Appalachians.
Yep, we're gonna camp in the Appalachians, West Virginia. Not
when it
country road.
Probably in a few years once.
Well, we're not gonna. I would love to go through North Carolina, Western North Carolina.
Not right now.
Not right now. And our thoughts and prayers go to
everybody
affected the victims of Hurricane Helene. That lost everything and their families.
As a native Floridian, I know better than most what it's like to live through hurricanes or be devastated by hurricanes. So I've lived through pretty much every major hurricane that has hit Florida. So I completely understand what all of you guys are going through. But there is help out there. There's people donating money and celebrities are helping. I just saw Dolly Parton just donated over $1 million of her own money to help.
The Cajun Navy.
Yep, Cajun Navy's out there.
I believe if you go on TikTok and look up, I'm going to throw his name out there. We're not affiliated with him or anything. The Sleepy Paramedic.
Yep.
He does have a GoFundMe going right now. Look on TikTok. They have a ton of GoFundMes going on right now to help the victims of Helene.
No matter your political affiliation, we're not going to get political here, but former President Donald Trump did start a GoFundMe to aid all of the people that have been affected. So you can find that as well. I believe it's on his socials. And a lot of celebrities have donated money. He's donated money personally. So there's a lot going out there. So just see how you can be of help. And even if you can't help, just be there for people that you know. I personally know people that are in the affected areas, and yeah, so, but Appalachian cryptids are fascinating creatures steeped in folklore, blending myth, mystery, and regional culture. The Appalachian Mountains, a vast and ancient range spanning from the southeastern U.S. to parts of Canada, have long been a hotspot for eerie tales, many of which involve cryptids, creatures whose existence is debated or unproven. These cryptids have been passed down through generations, often serving as a cautionary tale or explanation for the unexplainable. The knot deer.
This one creeps the hell out of me.
I've seen
The knot
stuff
deer
like this.
is one of the more unsettling cryptids associated with the Appalachian region. It appears at first to be a regular deer, but something about it quickly feels off. Witnesses describe strange features such as unnaturally long limbs, a head turned at an odd angle, or eyes that seem too intelligent or human like for an animal. The knot deer's movements are often reported as jerky or unnatural, and its behaviors are usually more aggressive or bold than a typical deer, adding to the feeling of unease. What makes the knot deer particularly eerie is its subtle wrongness, as if it's mimicking a deer but just misses key details. Many believe it could be a cryptid, a supernatural creature, or even possibly even a misidentified sick animal. In folklore, the knot deer is said to appear when something ominous is near, giving it a reputation as a bad omen. Now,
Most commonly, this thing you'll find a lot of these sightings in Tennessee.
yeah, so witnesses describe its movements as resembling those of a newborn fawn, awkward, shaky, and erratic. But the creature itself is fully grown, giving a sense of discord between its size and behavior. Again, its limbs are unnaturally long, far exceeding the proportions of a normal deer. And some accounts suggest that it possesses additional joints or double jointed limbs, like its legs are crooked backwards. This peculiar anatomy gives it a grotesque, almost insect-like gait. Its barrel-shaped chest, far more pronounced than that of a typical deer, lends it an imposing presence. And I will put pictures on our Facebook page of these cryptids.
Thank you, because I will not be doing that.
Perhaps the most striking and immediately unnerving feature, again, is its eyes. Unlike typical deer, which have wide set eyes in the sides of their heads, the knot deer has eyes that face forward like those of a predator. This predatory gaze is often the first sign that something is terribly wrong, as it conflicts so jarringly with the harmless appearance of a normal deer. This characteristic alone has caused many witnesses to feel an instinctual sense of dread, as if they are being stalked by something far more dangerous than it seems. In some rare and chilling accounts, witnesses have reported seeing multiple eyes on the creature's face, further compounding its grotesque appearance. These additional eyes, while not commonly reported, add a layer of malevolent mystery to the creature. Even more uncommon are accounts where the creature's head is described as bovine, creating an even more distorted and otherworldly hybrid of familiar animals. It moves with a boldness and aggression entirely out of character for a typical deer. Its unnatural gait, combined with its disconcerting, almost predatory behavior, has left many who encounter it frozen with fear. This is not a timid creature that flees at the sight of humans. Instead, it seems to watch and stalk, its movements deliberate and disquieting. Though it may seem like just another part of the forest at first, those who encounter the knot deer quickly realize that they are facing something far darker, an unsettling distortion of nature, one that defies the rules of the wild and plunges anyone who sees it into a chilling sense of wrongness. The knot deer exhibits unusual and unsettling behavior that further distinguishes it from typical deer. Unlike most wildlife, these creatures are said to show no fear of humans. Instead of fleeing at the sight of people, they often approach, and it is in these closer encounters that their odd, disjointed movements become apparent. Many who have come across a knot deer describe an overwhelming sense of unease, as if the creature possesses an intelligence or emotional awareness not usually attributed to animals. This uncanny sense of self awareness only deepens the feeling that something is terribly wrong. It's generally non aggressive unless provoked. Reports suggest that if an encounter tries to scare it off or acts aggressively, the knot deer may retaliate. Some accounts describe being chased up trees with a knot deer circling the base, or even walking on its hind legs in an eerie display, either to intimidate or to try and reach the person who climbed out of its grasp. This unsettling behavior contributes to its menacing reputation, even though outright attacks are rare.
I mean, this thing is just, you're just walking through the woods or you're on your property and you see far off in like the distance this deer that's just not acting right. It almost reminds me of like an insect, like a spider.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like it's naturally evolved itself to look like a deer, so that you're like, oh, it's a deer, but then it just can't quite get it, but it's aggressive enough and it's predatory because it's wanting to grab you.
Yeah. Now, most accounts of the not deer originate from online communities, mostly Reddit, where users share personal encounters and eerie sightings. Recently, the phenomenon has garnered attention on platforms like TikTok, where more people are coming forward with their strange stories. The majority of sightings occur along remote roads in the Appalachian region. A common scenario involves someone driving alone at night and spotting what initially seems like a normal deer on the side of the road or directly in their path. As they get closer, however, the realization dawns that what they are looking at is not quite right, triggering a deep instinctual fear in the witness. Now, not deer encounters are suggested by skeptics to be encounters with deer who have birth defects, causing unusual walking patterns and head shape. The feelings reported by those who claim to have encountered not deers are often thought to be the result of isolation, sleep deprivation, or other factors. Now, an alternative to the deformed deer explanation is that the encountee stumbled upon deer suffering from the early stages of CWD, which is chronic wasting disease, aka the zombie deer syndrome.
Oh, those are creepy.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a big problem in Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. CWD is also being suspected as possible source for modern day Wendigo sightings, which tend to express a deer skull face. In regards to the CWD, the first sign of illness is difficulty in movement. A follow-up sign is a change in behavior, which includes listlessness, tremors, and nervousness. Excessive salivation and increased water intake follow. The deer loses loses their fear of humans and looks utterly confused. After this, the wasting begins, and those who favor the explanation for the not deer suggest that the accounts of double joints or multiple jointed legs are merely of legs that have lost some internal tissue, allowing the lower leg to swing slightly in either direction. Some suggest that multiple eyes are a misidentification of open lesions whose exposed fluids reflect light.
Honestly, it does sound like a reasonable explanation. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is one of the things
I think this thing exists.
I think it does because I've seen some videos. Unfortunately, I got on the side of the cryptid TikTok of Appalachia.
I love Appalachian TikTok.
It scares the living shit out of me.
That's kind of the point.
I don't want to go to Appalachia and visit.
Oh, we're still
camping.
We're still doing it.
I want to go see a Wendigo.
No, fuck that. No.
Here's the thing, though, about Wendigos. This is how I kind of knew that they're. It's not that I don't want to believe in it. I personally would love it if they're like, oh yeah, it's just a bunch of deer with chronic waste syndrome. Great, because these things sound terrifying, and I would not want to encounter them. Anything in Appalachia, I am just convinced it's like, listen, there's just as much a good chance of it being true as it is false.
So, like Wendigos, because I'm going to talk about it because we don't talk about them in here, but they are technically a cryptid.
They are.
But, I mean, we could do a whole podcast on the Wendigos by themselves.
But essentially, I don't know how it started, but everybody seems to think that a Wendigo is like some kind of weird deer. No, and that's not what a Wendigo is.
No, I was about to say, is a Wendigo, from everything that I've researched, they believe, especially like Native American culture, I am part Cherokee, and which will fit into this next part. but Wendigos are humans that they got trapped or stuck in the woods, and they began to eat each other, because there's a lot of beliefs in throughout culture, which we will be doing an episode on this at some point, of cannibalism through culture. But they believe that if you uh, eat another human, that you gain supernatural abilities.
In this case, because I believe the origins, like the actual origins of it, are Algonquin, which are up far north around where I live, up in Canada and in New York, where I grew up.
Canada.
Not Canadian.
You said it.
I didn't say it.
You did. You were like up north in
Where
Canada.
I live in Canada.
That's not what I meant, and I apologize because I'm not actually Canadian.
Yes, he is.
No, I'm not.
Talk
Anyway,
about it.
Cannibalism was a taboo up there, especially in the many of the Algonquin people tribes. So, if you were found to have engaged in cannibalism, like Kate said, whatever the circumstance, you were cut off and you had no choice but it. You were shunned, and you would believe. I mean, a Wendigo is essentially a demon.
Yeah.
It is something that possesses you, and then you just become, the hunger for it just becomes so insatiable that you just become evil and everything. Like I said, we're not going to delve into Wendigos, but whatever reason, I think it's just somebody was just having some fun with some internet art, and some reason Wendigos are now like the not deer. It's like these are two different things.
Isn't it episode 2 of Supernatural season 1?
Pretty much, yeah.
My favorite episode.
My favorite cryptid is the Hodag. If you're from Wisconsin or Rhinelander, Wisconsin, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I used to make fun. I was like, what happened? There's nothing in Wisconsin. And then Pam, many years ago, shared with me a website. I think I've lost it by now. About all the strange stuff in Wisconsin. And I've just concluded that Wisconsin is some kind of nexus crossroad of everything weird and creepy west of the Appalachian Mountains, because there's just no other explanation for all the weird shit there.
We can do another episode on the Hodag, but a Hodag is a fearsome critter resembling a large bull-horned carnivore with a row of thick curved spines down its back. The Hodag was said to be born from the ashes of a cremated oxen as an incarnation of the accumulation of abuse the animals had suffered at the hands of their masters. And it's strongly tied to, again, Rhinelander, Wisconsin.
Yeah. So next season we may do an episode of each state's cryptid, because every state has a cryptid. You have the Jersey Devil. You have, I believe, the Not Deer is Tennessee's. So each state has a specific cryptid. So we may do an episode of just those. Yeah. So the Raven Mockers. The Raven Mockers are among the most terrifying figures in Cherokee mythology. These ancient witches, with their withered and aged forms, are believed to possess the power to extend their lives by feeding on the suffering of the sick and dying. Their name comes from the eerie raven-like calls they emit as they fly through the night sky, often in fiery or shadowy forms that make them even more fearsome. The true horror of the Raven Mockers lies in their method of survival. They are said to torment those near death, inflicting pain and fear before consuming their hearts. By doing so, they not only extinguish their victim's life, but also steal the remaining years the person would have lived, extending their own existence. This makes them symbols of both physical and spiritual predation, causing immense fear among the Cherokee people. The Raven Mocker's presence at a deathbed is seen as a dire omen, and they are said to be invisible to most except for those powerful spiritual sight or protection. Now, the Raven Mocker, known in Cherokee as, I got to remember how to say this, it is Kalanu Ikileski. That's Cherokee. Is one of the most feared entities in Cherokee mythology. My family would shun me if I got that wrong. Mm-hmm. These malevolent witches prey on the sick and those near death to extend their own lifespan. When night falls, the Raven Mocker is believed to take on a fiery form, flying through the air with arms outstretched like wings, leaving a trail of sparks behind. Their flight is accompanied by the eerie sound of rushing wind, and their cries are reminiscent of a raven's call, marking their association with death. Raven Mockers are said to gather at the homes of those who are dying. They torment their victims by lifting them from their beds, pressing down on their chest to restrict breathing, or violently throwing them to the ground. Once the victim dies, the Raven Mocker consumes the heart. Though no external marks are left on the body, it is believed the heart is spiritually removed. By consuming the heart, the Raven Mocker steals the remaining years of the victim's life to add to their own, thus extending their dark existence. Other witches fear the Raven Mocker's immense power, often fleeing in terror when one arrives. However, medicine men with the appropriate spiritual knowledge and abilities can detect the presence of a Raven Mocker and prevent it from entering the home. It's believed that if a Raven Mocker is seen in its true form, it will die within 7 days, making skilled medicine men a key force of protection against these predatory spirits. So and again, there are different names of the Raven Mockers. They are known as the Death Spirits, he who covers his face, the Death Caller, and Heart Eater. So it kind of like digs into that sinister reputation that they have.
Also, another name I found when I was researching it, because Raven Mockers have also been kind of adopted to Appalachian folklore, just because of the natural mixing of the European and American settlers in Appalachia with the Cherokee who remained in the area. I believe it is the Woman of the Woods. Kind of it's interesting because what the fuck?
That's a Raven Mocker.
Yeah, if y'all look up a Raven Mocker, it's kind of a fucked up creature.
Half human, half bird.
What I've always found interesting, and I know people on Appalachian Reddit and TikTok have pointed this out, is that as we stated earlier, the Appalachian Mountains are old. They are actually the oldest mountain ranges on Earth. They're not the tallest by any stretch of the imagination, but they are the oldest. But what some people may not know is that the Appalachians were actually part of a bigger mountain chain that actually formed a horseshoe around that kind of hit Europe and then went down into North Africa. There are 2 other mountain ranges from that giant horseshoe chain that are still surfaced. Technically 3. Obviously, the Appalachians. The other one is the Atlas Mountains in North Africa. The other one, this is a key one, is the Scottish Highlands. The Scottish Highlands are technically part of the Appalachian mountain ranges. And if for any of you all who are listening, as if the Raven Mocker looks somewhat kind of familiar to a banshee, I kind of found a lot of similarities as well. I personally think that if there are spooky, weird stuff that we don't know about, which I believe, I think it's all part of it, because the Raven Mocker is too similar, and it fit too. When the Europeans moved into Appalachia, they started calling them the Woman of the Woods and everything. The origins just kind of sync too well with each other to be a coincidence.
Yeah, and those mountain ranges, for those that don't know, we have tectonic plates that shift constantly, and what happened is over time those plates shifted and the continent separated too far, and that mountain range just fell into the ocean.
Exactly.
And split all of these. So those mountain ranges are still down there, which who knows, those creatures may have turned into maybe where all these crazy sea creatures come from.
So that's where mermaids come from.
So one story recounts a young hunter who, after a long journey, sought refuge at the home of an old couple. The house appeared abandoned, so the hunter entered the small winter house, or known as an asi, attached to the larger building. As he lay resting, he heard the cry of a raven. Shortly after, the old man entered the house, followed by his wife. The hunter remained quiet and soon realized they were raven mockers when they spoke of their attempts to steal lives. The old man had been successful while the old woman failed due to the presence of medicine men. The hunter watched them roast what appeared to be a human heart over the fire. The next morning, the old man gave the hunter a beadwork gift and urged him not to speak of what he had seen. The hunter threw the beadwork into a stream on his way back to the village and informed his people. 7 days later, a group of warriors returned with him to the couple's house, where they found the couple dead. To ensure the destruction of the Ravenmockers, they set fire to the house and burned it.
Well, I guess whoever he took probably really didn't have much long left to live.
Well, it's not that. Remember, in the folklore, if they are seen, they only have 7 days left to live.
You're right. That's right.
And the hunter saw them, so they only live for 7 days.
Well, good on the hunter. He's like, here's some bees. Don't tell people we're here. Yeah, screw you. You're killing people. Let's burn their shit down.
I mean, you got to remember, beads are very sacred in Native American culture.
I understand that, but still, I don't think it trumps. Bees. 2 creatures killing people.
So another account tells of 2 men who were prepared by a medicine man to witness supernatural events that were believed to occur at graveyards following a death. After fasting for 7 days, the men had their eyes rubbed with the brain of a muskrat, which allowed them to see the unseen without fear. They hid near a fresh grave and, at midnight, watched as various creatures, including bats, dogs, cats, and birds, gathered around the grave. Suddenly, a large black bird, which they recognized as the raven mocker, descended from the sky and began digging into the earth. Terrified, one of the men shot at the bird, but it quickly vanished into the ground. The men fled in fear, and later they had to undergo healing rituals to recover from the encounter.
Well, guess they lost their cool.
In another tale, a man was left alone to die, abandoned by his family and friends who feared the presence of unseen evil forces they believed to be ravenmockers.
Sucks.
As he lay dying, it was said that ravenmockers tormented him, hastening his death by pressing down on his chest and lifting him from his bed.
That really sucks.
After his death, the ravenmockers were believed to have stolen his heart to extend their lives, though no visible marks were left on the body. The fear of ravenmockers were so strong that even loved ones avoided staying near the dying man, fearing they too would be affected.
That really sucks.
Yeah.
One more account describes a group of witches attempting to enter a house where a dying person was being protected by a medicine man. The witches gathered outside trying to find a way in, but soon heard the cry of a ravenmocker, causing them to scatter in fear. Even the ravenmocker, feared among other witches, was prevented from entering the house due to the powerful protective rituals performed by the medicine man. His presence successfully repelled the ravenmocker and saved the dying person's life.
Now we're going into one of Pam's favorite, I say facetiously.
No, it is not.
So the Wampus Cat.
Facetiously is another word for sarcasm, honey.
The Wampus Cat, described as a fearsome hybrid of a mountain lion and a woman, is one of the most haunting creatures of Appalachian folklore. And it's haunting just because it resembles a woman.
Fuck you.
That's a little... That's... Wow.
That's right.
Fuck you.
Believers say that this eerie creature roams the dense wilderness, emitting terrifying sounds that strike fear into the hearts of those unfortunate enough to cross its path. Said to possess the cunning of a human and the ferocity of a wild beast, the Wampus Cat's legend is rooted in Cherokee tales, where it often symbolizes a cursed figure or vengeful spirit, haunting the forests and mountains. Its chilling cries are a harbinger of danger, and encounters with the creature are said to leave lasting dread in those who survive. The Wampus Cat has deep roots in Cherokee folklore once again, with multiple origin stories explaining its existence. One version tells the tale of Running Deer, a brave Cherokee woman who sought revenge on the Iwa, the spirit of madness, after it drove her husband Standing Bear to insanity. Armed with a booger mask and the spirit of a mountain cat, she surprised and defeated the evil spirit, earning the title of the tribe's spirit talker and home protector. Some people believe that after her victory, Running Deer spirit merged with the Wampus Cat, and now she watches over Cherokee lands, protecting them from hidden dark forces in the depths of Tanasi.
Go, girl.
Another version of the legend tells of a woman who, driven by curiosity, spied on a sacred Cherokee ceremony by hiding beneath the pelt of a mountain lion. In punishment for her actions, a powerful medicine man transformed her into a terrifying hybrid of a woman and feline, thus becoming the Wampus Cat. These stories paint the creature as both a guardian and a symbol of punishment, adding to its mystique within Appalachian lore.
That seems like a little bit of an overreaction.
The Wampus Cat, known by various names such as Gallywampus and the Whistling Wampus, holds a prominent place in Appalachian folklore. It's said to make its eerie appearance during twilight or dawn, times when the veil between natural and supernatural seems thinnest. The creature is often viewed as the embodiment of a cursed woman transformed into, again, a fearsome cat-like being as punishment for her disobedience or involvement in dark practices like witchcraft.
I really feel like some of this is a little bit of a misogyny. Like some freaking medicine man wrote this because his wife was like, I don't know, not doing what he wanted to. So he wrote this lore about trying to keep it. It's like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't cats, like big cats, like panthers and mountain lions, used to exist in Appalachia long ago?
Yeah. Some interpretations of the Wampus Cat's origins suggest that the legend may have been influenced by European folklore, particularly the myths of witches and women with shape-shifting abilities. Over time, these European elements likely merged with existing Appalachian stories, creating a unique blend of mythologies that resulted in the Wampus Cat becoming a powerful and enduring figure in the region's rich lore. Now, historic accounts of the Wampus Cat add a layer of mystery to the creature's legend. One notable report came from the Greenville Sun on December 17th, 1918, which mentioned a wampus reportedly roaming the Big Ridge in the vicinity of Gessamine. The newspaper noted that sightings and rumors of the wampus had persisted for generations, adding fuel to the growing intrigue surrounding this cryptid. Years later, the Wampus Cat made headlines again, this time blamed for a series of livestock deaths. Newspapers in the Norfolk area reported that the elusive creature had been preying on animals such as dogs, pigs, and other livestock. Some speculated that the wampus might belong to a species long thought extinct. Despite these reports and ongoing tales, no tangible proof has ever surfaced to confirm the existence of the Wampus Cat, leaving it firmly entrenched in Appalachian folklore. And again, the sightings of this cat are sporadic, occurring mainly in remote areas or deep within the forest where few venture. Those who have encountered the creature often report an overwhelming sense of unease, feeling as though they are being watched by an unseen predator before the creature emerges from the shadows. The Wampus Cat is also believed to possess a variety of supernatural abilities. One of the most unsettling traits attributed to it is its ability to emit spine-chilling screams, which are thought to either attract prey or serve as a warning to potential threats. These terrifying vocalizations are said to echo through the Appalachian wilderness, sending shivers down the spines of those who hear them. In addition to its vocal prowess, the Wampus Cat is also thought to possess incredible speed, agility, and stealth, allowing it to move through even the darkest forests or the densest forest undetected. These traits make it an elusive predator capable of stalking its prey or avoiding capture with ease. And perhaps the most frightening abilities tied to the Wampus Cat are its supposed powers of shape-shifting and invisibility. Legends suggest that the creature can alter its form or vanish entirely, making it nearly impossible to track or capture. These extraordinary abilities have long fascinated and terrified those who studied the beast mythology, ensuring that the Wampus Cat remains one of the most enigmatic creatures in Appalachian folklore. The Wampus Cat has made its way into various aspects of pop culture, expanding beyond folklore into literature, gaming, and even the world of magic. In Cormac McCarthy's novel, The Orchard Keeper, the creature makes an appearance, adding a haunting layer to the story's atmosphere. Additionally, it has found its way into the world of fantasy role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons, where its formidable image and mythos continue to inspire creativity.
And then this is I'm going to do the last paragraph. In the Harry Potter universe, the Wampus Cat takes on a magical role with Wampus hair, serving as a core material for enchanted wands. It also holds a place of honor as one of the 4 houses at Ilvermorny School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, the North American counterpart to Hogwarts.
The superior school.
These appearances in pop culture demonstrate the lasting impact of the Wampus Cat on both folklore and modern storytelling.
Now, of course, we know through Harry Potter, we know all the different houses and stuff like that.
For Ilvermorny, it is Wampus, Thunderbird, Orange Serpent. Forgot the 4th one. Pukwudgie.
Pukwudgie.
It has a lot to do with folklore.
Native,
it's mostly Native American.
Yes.
I mean, in reality, with the Wampus Cat, I feel like. I just feel like there were just mountain lions that just survived just long enough for people to record them, but before they died out, because up until recently, the only place you could find big cats east of the Mississippi was in Florida, the Florida Panthers. That was about it. Otherwise, the eastern United States, the only way that you could see a big cat was either in the zoo, or the worst kept secret by Fish and Game was them trying to reintroduce breeding populations of mountain lions into the Appalachians, New York, and any various places where they were once originally inhabited. My dad used to tell me that they were the worst kept secret there, because the Fish and Game people would say, no, there's no such thing as mountain lions east of the Mississippi. That's horrible. That is just pure poppycock. And he said, like, yeah, they've been trying for years to reintroduce them into the wild, but everybody keeps shooting them because, hey, they haven't existed here for like 200 plus years, and people's like pigs and cows are getting killed by them, so they just keep getting shot.
So, and for those that live outside of the U.S. and don't really know about the Appalachians, so not all, obviously they are old. They were, before settling and all of that, these were Native American lands.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know all of the tribes that lived in the Appalachians?
I know the Cherokee. Mm-hmm. I know. Did the Delaware live there? Or were they on the coast? They did not. Honestly, all I know is the Cherokee. That's really all I know. The Cherokee. Oh. No. The Miami and the Ottawa.
Miami, no.
I can't remember what the tribe Pocahontas was part of.
You had the Cherokee, which lived in present-day North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
You had the Shawnee.
That's right, the Shawnee.
Which were in West Virginia, here in Kentucky, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. You had the Iroquois.
Yeah, that's right.
Which were
Pennsylvania,
in New York and Pennsylvania. And then you had the Muskogee, or the Creek. They were in the foothills like Alabama and Georgia. And then you had the Catawba, which were North Carolina and South Carolina. So you were thinking of Iroquois.
Yeah, yes. I couldn't think of the name.
I'm very.
Which is, it's specifically the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, were the ones that lived there.
For those of you who don't know, the Iroquois were not an actual. Were a confederation of different tribes. They were not a tribe.
What tribes?
Hold on. The Tuscarora, the Seneca, the Oneida, the Onondaga, the Oswego, the Mohawk, and oh god, I can't remember the last one.
Cayuga.
The Cayuga.
Yes.
Sorry, that's my
six nations.
That's right. The Iroquois were
the largest.
Also, they were the inspiration behind the United States government.
Yep. So, but yeah, that is tulpas and cryptids. So again, we kind of wanted to do this. A lot of this has to do with the Appalachians, and we're not
we're in the shadow of them.
where we don't live necessarily near the Appalachians. They're a few hours away, but we're definitely, like Ben said, in the shadows of the Appalachians. We can get there in 4 hours and
less than that,
and be in the heart of
the heart of it, yeah, but
in 4 hours.
But if we want to get to the real, every state, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, has their own version of the Appalachians, and Eastern Kentucky, Harlow County, where we're about a couple hours from there, where a lot of the guys in my guard unit, their mamalas and papalas all grew up in the mountains and hollers. I actually was in my last drill, made a little oh yeah, I can't believe all this stuff. It's all a bunch of. I made the thing. I was like, this stuff is all probably a bunch of hooey, and literally you could have heard a record break, and I had my first sergeant, my platoon sergeant, and even my readiness NCO hid in his office. He kind of did the little lean back, and he's like, "What did you say?" And I got school.
Their history.
Keep in mind, I wasn't disrespectful. I was just like, come on, some of this stuff sounds ridiculous, and they were just like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
We learned long ago to don't go out after night. If you hear whistling and other weird noises from the woods,
no, you don't.
You don't, and just kind of mind your P's and Q's and don't go into the woods.
But yeah, so. The next episode, like I said, is going to be a little free form. We're going to go on Reddit, look at some haunt stories, stuff like that, some ghost stories. And then we will start wrapping up the season with 4 episodes. So once again, we want to thank everybody for listening. And we want to thank you for visiting the Scarlet Tavern. Please remember to turn in your glasses, push in your seat, and as always, tip the bard. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.